out. They don't call this a shepherd's house for nothing.
Ah, that's part of the appeal.
L'arroste le galline perché sto senza spine, non so come
Ah, belli! Ma cosa fate qui?
Cantiamo!
Cantate!
Sono le castagne!
Che buoni castagni!
buone, manca.
Posso avere uno?
E te va, guarda, ce ne
perfetto.
sono.
Però,
Ecco,
can I help myself to a glass of wine?
Fate complimenti,
No,
bevete.
io non faccio complimenti.
Mangiate e bevete, e bevate.
Cin cin, cin cin cin,
Cincia,
cin.
io ti so
Cin, cin.
Ah.
Buono. E senti,
Due castagne, un bicchiere di vino, posto.
senti, posso prendere questo? Because I have to do a recipe.
Perché noi dobbiamo andare.
Dovete andare ora?
Sì.
Va bene. Ci penso io, I'll take care of peeling the chestnuts.
Fate quello, fammi
Ciao,
prima.
belli.
Una finita raccogliere. Altrimenti Paola ci strilla.
Vai, prendi uno, dai. Ciao.
Ciao belli.
Ciao.
Ciao ciao.
Ciao, ciao. This recipe is una zuppa di castagni, or chestnut soup, and it's a rustic, simple, hearty recipe, kind of like this house, really simple to prepare. And there are a few tips to preparing chestnuts. Number one, make sure you peel your chestnuts when they're warm. This way you can remove the shell and also that inner skin very easily. Number two, like our lady friends have said, make sure you slit your chestnuts. This way they don't pop as you roast them in the oven. You can roast or boil your chestnuts. I prefer roasting them. Gives it more of a smoky, crunchy texture to the chestnut. And if you boil your chestnuts, you don't have to make a slit. Boil them for about 10 minutes, no problem. They won't explode. Here in Italy, there are tons of chestnut recipes. Some antipastos, risottos, mains, desserts, even jams. This is my favorite. And a little bit of garlic. And when you peel your chestnuts, if they're not all whole, that's okay. You want little bits and pieces because that actually thickens the broth and gives it a nice texture. For this recipe, in a hot pot, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, your garlic and your onions, and your peeled chestnuts right in. Like those one pot recipes, my favorite. A little bit of pureed tomato sauce. This is more to give it a bit of color. Give it a good mix. And now some vegetable broth. You want to bring it to a boil and then lower your heat down and let it simmer for about 45 minutes. But of course, in a shepherd's house, when you're cooking on a wood stove, there's nothing to lower down. You just remove it and put it on a smaller burner. A little bit of parsley, finely chop it up. I also like to add some croutons at the very end. And a little bit of salt to taste.
What's going on here?
Hey,
That smells good.
zuppa di castagni.
Ooh, what is that? Where'd you get all those chestnuts from?
Well, our little lady friends dropped off some chestnuts.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, some wine.
Oh, sweet.
So how did your photos go?
Good as usual. You know
Good
me.
as usual. Hey, that's
I'm
why.
a star that way.
That's why I pay you the big bucks.
What big bucks?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Hey David, so this water comes from this giant underground cave through which goes our well. It's 350 feet deep and it's pure mineral water. Well, this fountain was done by the architect David Rocco in the 20s, like the rest of the garden. He also did the Borghese Villa in Rome. He was a great architect. But if you see the garden as a body, this is the left side, which in our body is the female, receptive, intuitive side. Since ancient times was the womb of the earth. And it fills these three shells like our three bodies.
Wow,
the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and then it goes down to nourish the rest of the vegetable gardens. So it's like the female energy in the garden. The whole garden is highly symbolic, as you might have noticed, you know, but also really alive and flowing in an almost magical way.
And this is the male energy.
Yeah, this fountain here with this phallic circle of trees is the male energy of the garden. It's also the right side, the rational side in our body. And
I didn't know males were rational.
well, so nature and art meet.
And soon cooking.
And soon cooking and wellness and homeopathy and many other things for a harmonization of the total body. So you see, here is where the female and male energy of the garden meet, like the yin and yang of the whole of nature.
Such harmony.
Yeah, and we see it all through our five senses. You see those five lions? And the snake is like the symbol of the eternal renovation, like it sheds its skin. And its poison is also its healing, so the transformation. So this is like the live energy that dances through the garden that meets. So this pool was built in 1929 and was an Olympic-sized pool then. And it's inspired to Adrian's villa. In Adrian's villa there is columns and statues that define the space around the big pond.
It's incredible how the cypress trees just give this enclosure.
And this sense of perspective.
I have to come back in the summertime.
Oh, it's beautiful at all seasons.
This villa definitely inspires an Arabic feel, so I thought an appropriate recipe would be umali, which means in Arabic, Mother of God. And I was first introduced to this recipe when I was visiting Jordan a few years back. This is a basic bread pudding. It's a little bit of a twist, Arabic twist. You always have use for day-old bread, never throw it out. You don't have to be too precise on how big the slices are because it all gets soft and it breaks down like a soft pudding. Once you've cut up your bread, you can start heating up your milk and cream. Turn your heat on high, add milk and a little bit of cream. Bring it to a boil. You don't have to get too fancy with the exact precise measurements. A little bit of honey, depending on how sweet your tooth is. Add a little bit or a lot, let the honey flavor the milk and cream. And you can start placing your bread in your pan and flatten them all out. Sprinkle some pine nuts and some raisins. Just before your milk and cream have come to a boil, remove it from the stove. Just pour it all into the pan. Sprinkle a little cinnamon. And it's more or less done. You only have to put it in the oven, cook it for about 10 minutes on medium heat. It gets nice and bubbly. Ali.